staff and your vestry have all been talking about what are we being called to next. And we've been using the book, Canoeing Over the Mountains, as our guide. We started this book actually before the pandemic, because even without a pandemic going on, the world is constantly evolving, and therefore the church must constantly evolve too and find out what new thing the Holy Spirit is calling us to do. One of the most vivid images, though, in this Canoeing Over the Mountains is the Lewis and Clark expedition. Okay, so they head out to find the Northwest Passage, and they get to the great middle of the country, the Rocky Mountain kind of area, and they're expecting when they hit that continental divide that they're going to find a waterway that they can throw those canoes down and coast to the west, right? And they get to the top, and they don't see any water. All they see are more and more and more mountain ranges. And so they have to make a critical decision at that moment. Do we turn back and say there is no Northwest Passage? So we failed in our mission. And let me tell you, I bet there were at least half the group that wanted to do that. Or do they say, okay, it might not be what we set out to find, but we're going to explore it and figure out what it is. The thing about that, though, is that it's really hard to hike and traverse over mountains when you're carrying canoes. So you have to release something. You have to put something down in order to find that next thing. And so today, Carter is going to talk to us all about releasing. Last week, we named. With Jonathan, we named all those things that have brought us to this moment. And now we're at the continental divide. And we've got a critical decision. What are we going to release? What are we going to put down that's going to enable us to have the mobility in order to take the next step? So, without further ado, take it away, Carter.
Hester, would you mind turning my mic on, please?
Oh, yes. There you go.
Great. All right. Good morning, everyone. I think y'all can hear me loud and clear. Okay. So thank you, Hester, and I am really excited to be with y'all this morning and just share a lot of, honestly, what's kind of been on my heart and my mind over the last year. And it's been nice to have some time personally to just think back on the year and move into what's next. And just like Hester was saying, and just like Jonathan discussed last week, what is next and how do we get to that? But how do we do that together? We've been doing it what feels like alone, and so now getting to do it together is really exciting. So last week, yes, Jonathan kicked off our series with a conversation on breaking habits, the suffering and the loss of the last year, different types of trauma, moving forward together, and then of course naming those hurts and losses that we've experienced. We'll still touch on a few of those points today, but we'll mainly be focusing on the topic of releasing. I do believe that naming and releasing go hand in hand, and you really do need to be able to truthfully and honestly do one in order to do the other. We need to be able to name and own our hurts and pain before we can move into releasing those very real and raw feelings that we're having. This begins with, first of all, having our own desire to do that. We're going to talk through that and how we can allow that new and fresh energy that I think we all feel in us, but to be released and move us into a new season, as I said, together. So I want us to think about this question that I think came up last week as well, but how do we find the healing for that anger, the fear, the distress in our collective community, but also in our own hearts? So I want everyone to just take a moment to think about one thing, because I always think that before we can talk about the bad stuff, we need to talk about what's going well. And there's always things that I believe are going well. So if y'all can just take a moment, either share with the person next to you or just think to yourself just one thing, and I also believe it's a great way to start your day, that is going well or that you're grateful for. And if you want to just share that with a person who's next to you, or just think it to yourself, but just take a moment, just one thing. I know sometimes it's hard to get talking, but just one thing that you do feel is going well. I just want to share my gratitude this morning is I'm just really thankful for the people in my life, and for specifically, you know, that's been who we've had to lean on, and I've really felt that in the last kind of coming out of this, in the last few months as we've been in this re-entry phase of just looking around, and there's always, in my own close personal life, and I think we hopefully can feel that all together, of just people that we know have been there and now seeing that coming out of the last year who are with us and who we know that. So if y'all just want to take 1 second to share something that you're grateful for today. Did you have? Well, thank you guys for taking a minute to share, and I know that can be a little bit awkward at first, but I really do believe, and I try to share that with the youth here, but there's always something to be grateful for, so I try to just practice that as much as I can, but hopefully every day. But the Woodsides were sharing that their gratitude was last night they got to see live opera for the first time in 15 months, so that is, it's the little things, y'all. So that's amazing, but I know you said the heat was not something you were thankful for, and I'm sure of that. So obviously this last year has looked a little bit different for all of us, regardless of how much or how little the actual pandemic affected your personal lives. I think we've all experienced something that has obviously transformed us as a community. I already feel like I'm kind of thinking back on things as BP versus AP before pandemic versus after pandemic, and it kind of helps because I feel like a different person. I really do. So it might have just been me, or maybe it was because of the weight of all that was going on. But did anyone else feel like on top of the year there was just a lot going on in our own lives? I'll be honest when I say that with or without the pandemic, last year would have been hard, and that's normal to just have a hard year, but there was a lot of weight added to that. So maybe that was because we didn't have our communities so readily available to rely on and to pick us up when we needed it, but I felt that, and I just want to be honest with y'all that that weight was definitely there. I know I learned one thing, and that is that we really do need each other. And that is just why I'm so excited for this. And also just, it's nice to be reminded how important that is to have each other. So I want to use our time today to walk through some different steps and practices that have worked for me, that have worked for other people, to help us release those feelings of pain and grief and anger and disappointment that we might be holding on to, but that we can do that together. And I am going to invite Hester up to share a quick story that will kind of get us in a good place to start our steps.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so I am a Ken Burns fan. If any of y'all have ever watched the documentaries on country music, on jazz, well, here's when I became a full groupie. And that was when I watched the documentary that he did on the Dust Bowl. And I thought if anyone can make the Dust Bowl interesting, they've got to be good, you know? One of the stories really stuck with me when I watched that documentary. And it was a story about a woman whose father grew up in the Dust Bowl. And she had grown up not understanding a particular behavior of his until she was able to enter into adult conversation with him about his childhood, his journey, what was informing that behavior. So imagine they are in suburban America, far beyond, decades after the Dust Bowl, and she is watching her father, every time he pulls a plate or a bowl or a glass out of the cabinet, go over to the sink, wash it, dry it, and then use it. And she was like, Dad, it's already been through the dishwasher. What is going on? She didn't understand. And it was in that moment that he realized and was able to name for himself that that was a habit that he picked up in the Dust Bowl when you had to wash and dry everything that came out of the cabinet, because no matter how airtight your house was, the dust was going to get in. And it was going to coat everything in your cabinets. It was a very helpful behavior during the Dust Bowl. It was perhaps not as healthy behavior after the Dust Bowl. And I think for him, it was that moment of transformation of realizing, why am I doing this? What's informing this? And is it still useful? Is it still a useful coping mechanism for getting through my day? Or now, is it something that's maybe holding me back from having that time to do other things? Is it maybe an anxiety that I'm continuing to carry around with me every time I do that? Is that a little pinprick of an anxiety that I've not been able to release? Again, the importance of naming in order to release something. So I want you to think about, during the pandemic, what might be your plate washing?
I think I got it. It's like my jetpack, I guess. Okay, thank you, Hester. Alrighty. So Hester shared that story with me earlier this week, and I asked her to share it again with you guys this morning because, like you said, there are those habits, and like we've been talking about, that we are holding on to, or that we obviously are having a hard time letting go of, but want to. I think that's the main thing, is that we're ready, and we're here, and we're ready for that. So the 4 things that we're going to talk through this morning are acknowledging that pain, or that hurt, or the loss, accepting, releasing, and forgiving that. So I am going to start with our acknowledging, and a lot of that I thought through is just being honest. And sometimes that can be really hard, but it can also be so freeing to just be honest about what that is and why we're feeling that way. And the first thing is just making that decision to let go and release that pain or that hurt on our own. As people, us who have undergone mental and emotional trauma, we might find it difficult to let go of those hurts. But our commitment to the healing of the past and by letting go of those wounds is the first step in reconciling with that. Acknowledging the pain invites and allows us to feel those emotions connected to the last year or whatever that looks like, rather than stuffing them down and hoping that they'll just all go away. In college, I had a psychology professor whose mantra almost was, what you resist persists. And I found myself thinking that a lot as we've been shifting back into our normal lives. What am I resisting? What am I holding on to And why is that sticking with me? What are we resisting? The energy that we put towards stuffing all of that down far exceeds the energy required to just heal that emotion. I do have to admit that this one is really hard for me. I find life much easier and beautiful to just look at through those nice rose-colored glasses, and everything is just fine all the time. But resistance is that wall, and it overshadows our best intentions even to thrive and prosper. So as hard as it is for me, I'm sharing that with you because being honest and acknowledging that pain is the first step that, and just letting go of that. So, excuse me. So we resist how life should unfold and how we think it should go, and it's not going our way. And we're caught up in a mental and emotional battle almost to make sense of the reality of right now, of the last year, of whatever that looks like. But what if there was another way? And what if we didn't have to carry that pain of the past with us? It would look a lot different for me. And what if instead of battling against all of those currents of life and every day, we just went along with it? And instead of running away from those emotions, what if we leaned into them and just experienced them? This in itself will transform our fear, the anxieties, our anger, and letting go of what we believe maybe life owes us and stepping into those challenges. The main thing is just living into those emotions, because I think so often we feel that pain and just want it to stop and go away and put on those pretty glasses. But acknowledging it is something different, at least like I've said, for me. So I want us to challenge each of us to do exactly that. Just leaning into those emotions, experiencing them fully, maybe something that you haven't done in a long time. Because in the last year, that was the last thing we wanted to do, even though it was so overwhelming for us. And just remember, what you resist persists. The next thing we're going to go over is acceptance. And I have added the Serenity Prayer, which I fall back on a lot. It's kind of a guide and just one of those prayers in my life that helps me, and you've probably heard it before, but in some form we have all experienced pain in our lives, no matter if it was in the last year, the last 20 years, we've experienced pain. And to just sail through life without having those emotional intensities would be to deny our personal growth. The main thing that I've learned through the pain in my life is that I've grown a lot from it, which is hard to accept, but it is the beauty of it all. Our character is formed under those difficult circumstances, and much like a diamond is formed under heat and pressure, that's our character, and that's who we are. Acceptance does not deny the pain that we felt, but it shines a light on the cracks that we have in order to integrate them back into the wholeness of all of our being. Without accepting that pain we're feeling, we cannot move on forward together or individually. I want you to imagine taking a road trip from Memphis to California, and you're in the car with your partner or your best friend, and that partner or best friend wants to stop at every town and city along the way and pick up all these souvenirs, which is great, but by the time you get back to Memphis, not only will you probably be broke and not have any money to spend on your trip, but you'll be so weighed down by all of those souvenirs and things that you probably didn't even think much about the trip that you were on. We use all that energy to haul those suitcases filled with the souvenirs when we could have just let it go and experienced the moment. So, it's the same with holding on to our pain. We don't have enough time or space or energy to continue carrying those souvenirs or those emotions. Another similar story was one that I heard when I was going through confirmation at Calvary when I was a youth. And the priest told us that, or kind of described the experience of communion as going up to the altar and carrying that big suitcase, maybe with all those souvenirs or all of that baggage, and just leaving it there when we go up for communion. And so I try to picture that when when we're sharing the Eucharist together. And obviously we didn't get to have that. That's another thing that we didn't get to experience in our normal way this last year. It's just was the sacrament of the Eucharist, but also for a lot of us just going up to the altar and leaving that there. So we probably found other ways to do that, but that idea of just going up and leaving that baggage, whatever that looks like, a suitcase, a trash bag, but knowing that that's okay. And I just want to end by reading the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Our next topic is releasing, which we are discussing all today. But that emotional pain of the past can be held within us and take our joy and take our happiness if we leave it unattended. These emotions kind of outline our expressions, and if we don't find a way to release that, then we're just carrying on with these pains and these hurts, and we're unable to be our true selves. So as you release these emotional wounds of the past, the hope is that a light will fill our bodies and our minds, and a weight can be lifted off our shoulders. This is the weight of carrying all of those emotions of last year, but we cannot do that alone. And we have to support one another and come and hold each other accountable as we make these emotions and come out of all of this together. Part of releasing is looking at those people and at those things and places that bring us joy. So I want to talk a little bit, kind of carrying off of how we started with our gratitude, but also where we find joy. I watched a Netflix series about a year and a half ago. I can't remember if it was BP or AP, before pandemic or after pandemic, but it was about the life-changing magic of tidying up. And Marie Kondo is the writer and director of the show. And honestly, it's a lot about just cleaning up the clutter in your life, but I felt, and a lot of people that I think also watched the show felt, that it was kind of cleaning up the other clutter in our lives, the clutter in our hearts and in our minds, and how we can think that through and see what we need to hold on to and what we can really just get rid of. So I want us to take a moment to think about what sparks joy in our own lives. Marie Kondo says that the best way to choose what to keep and what to throw away is to take each item in one's hand and ask, does this spark joy? And if it does, keep it, and if it doesn't, get rid of it. This is not only the simplest, but also the most accurate yardstick by which to judge. So, where do we find joy? I think we can all agree that we find joy right here. We're here together. We've been longing to be here together. And we have this opportunity to move forward however we see that looks. And however we do that, but doing it together. This quote was also a Marie Kondo. These storage solutions are really just a means within which to bury possessions that spark no joy. So if you're interested, the Netflix series is easy to watch, but it's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and it does get you thinking. So the last one that we're going to go over in these kind of steps to get us to release is forgiveness. And for me, this is a lot of where the Holy Spirit comes into play. Forgiveness is another one that can be really hard, and it can be challenging to think about what we need to be forgiven, but how to do that. I think it's mainly the action within us of forgiving, whether it's ourselves or someone else or just the world. It's not always easy. And my mantra that I was kind of thinking lately has just been that I and we are just doing the best that we can. And sometimes that is the best that we can do. And I find myself just saying that a lot to myself, that it's okay, Carter, I'm just doing the best I can, and that's all we can do, is the best that we can. So, somewhere in us, we all have this healing energy of love that we want to share. And maybe it's just needing to forgive something or someone before we can do that, but it is always there. I could talk about forgiveness and acceptance all morning, but the truth of the matter is that working through our pain and suffering is healthy and necessary to move forward. We are all doing the best that we can. And at the end of the day, we need peace and we need each other to start that process. We need the love of God, which really does pass all understanding, to be working in our own hearts and our own minds. We need the comfort and the reminder that we are not alone in this as we move forward. If you look around this room, as I've had the joy of doing this morning, I can see that this visible reminder that we aren't alone. And this process will continue to look a lot different for every person in this room individually. No matter where we are on our journey in the next week or the next month or the next year, we will each be working through our commitment, acknowledgement, acceptance, releasing, and forgiveness together as one body. So what are some ways that we release our emotion, that we let go of those things that we hold on to? Mine, I think that one of the most interesting parts of the last year was just kind of talking with people about how we were doing that. I think a lot of us were able to experience and try new things, which was one of the beauties of that. We spent a lot of weeks on our children's chapel videos just doing different prayer activities that ended up working for a lot of the adults who were tuning in too. Whether it was just a walk or listening to a song or trying to pray with our body and our hands, we were doing the best we could. And but one thing that worked really well for me that I never probably would have tried if it wasn't for the last year was meditating. It was something new for me that I had always wanted to pick up, but hadn't really given myself the chance to, as y'all might have felt with baking or gardening, but that was mine. So I want to take a moment this morning to walk us through a meditation that I enjoy. So you can kind of get comfortable, however that looks, or just close your eyes or leave them open. You can make this whatever you would like. But I encourage you to close your eyes and take a second to center yourself, and if we could all just take a deep breath and let it out, and one more deep breath and let it out. Sit quietly and comfortably. Sit in a comfortable way and notice yourself sitting. Breathe naturally. Watch your breath going in and going out. Keep focusing on your breathing. Experience feeling love through your whole body. Feel the sense of caring, healing, and soothing. Let it wash over you and through you while you gently repeat silently to yourself, "May I be well, healthy, and strong. May I be happy. May I live in peace." Bring to your mind someone who you like a lot and respect. Send them these feelings of warmth and caring as you wish them well. Repeat silently to yourself, "May you be well. May you be happy. May you live in peace." Now I want you to bring to mind someone that you maybe feel neutral about. Someone you don't really know. Someone that you maybe want to know better. This may be someone that you've seen in the street, seen at the grocery, or passed at work. Send them these feelings of warmth and caring as you wish them well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you live in peace. Bring to mind someone that you got irritated with recently. Choose someone with whom you have got mildly irritated, This is not the time to go to someone who has been very hurtful towards you. Send them these feelings of warmth and caring as you wish them well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you live in peace. If you wish at this time, bring to someone who has hurt you. Do this with someone who has hurt you in the past, or think of something who has hurt you. You may not want to do this. You are not condoning or approving of what they have done. You are simply allowing yourself to let the pain or anger that you carry towards them go. As the pain hurts you more, send them these feelings of warmth and caring as you wish those people or that person or thing well. May you be well. May you be happy. May you live in peace. Now radiate the warmth and love that you are feeling to the people around you. Send that loving kindness to everyone in this room, to everyone in our Holy Communion Church community. May you all be well. May you all be happy. May you all live in peace. And now bring that attention back to yourself. Focus once again on you, so the feeling of loving kindness fills your whole being, breathing in peacefully and breathing out peacefully. You are at peace with yourself and the world. Slowly let these feelings of loving kindness ease and return once again to focusing on just your own breathing. Then return to once again noticing yourself sitting. Slowly open your eyes and return to the room. Thanks for participating, guys. I think that is a very centering meditation. It helps me to think about the feelings that I'm having, the emotions that I'm holding on to, but then to release them in what feels like a very positive way. So that concludes our time together this morning. I am so grateful for this, and I am always around. I'm so grateful for my place here at Holy Communion, and would always love to talk and get to know any of you better when I'm not only with the youth, so I always am happy to talk and get to know everyone. So thank you again, and I hope that you all will have a wonderful day. Thank you. Hester, do you have anything else to share with the group? Yes. I think it should be on.
Thank you, Carter,
Yes.
very much. I think we all got a little taste of what our youth get to experience in Sunday school and in confirmation and in youth group, and Carter is just such a gift to our community, so thank you very much. We've got a little bit of time, so if you all want to just kind of mingle and talk about some of these things, talk about some of the things that that sparked your imagination during Carter's talk, or that you would like to release or begin releasing. Again, it doesn't mean that that emotion is not real. It means that you are not having to carry it in your baggage with you all the time, that you can put it down. As we say in the Rite One Liturgy of the Word, come to me, all ye that travail and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. That's why we're here as a community of faith. That's why we lean on God when we need to. That's why we lean on each other, is not to say these emotions and these feelings aren't real, but to say, I would really like to put them down for a while. I'd like to release them for a while so that I can have life and have it abundantly, because that is God's wish for all of us, is that we have that life and have it abundantly. So feel free to talk amongst yourselves and share your story.